Oh, good. Looked like it was taking a while. Spinny, spinny. I was getting concerned. It's always a little scary when I first get started because I never know what it's going to do or if it's just going to cut me off after only 2 seconds. Ridiculous. So here we are. Let's pray that we don't get cut off, but I do have that backup stream like I always try to do. Just one, though. Just one backup. So the reboot stream is linked in the description. And yeah, and if I have to go to it, I will definitely let you know, because usually what happens is somehow I get cut off from YouTube's end, but on my end it still keeps going. It's so weird. It still shows I'm live. It'll just give a little warning saying that we're reconnecting you, and it's like, but they never actually do. So it's done. So if that happens, you see it continuing to spin and spin and spin, then I'll let you know in the chat if I'm going to the second stream or not. In some cases, I'm like, well, I've talked enough, and so I'll just cut it here. But if I get cut off only a few minutes or a couple seconds in, obviously, I'm going to go to the backup stream. So I see everybody already cutting up in here. Deb and her multi-personalities there. And Gudrun's talking about how hot it is there. And here it is. Here we are. It's cold. I didn't build a fire today, though. We had a fire going the last couple days, though, to warm up the house because it was cold. It's like it's officially summer now, and it still feels like early spring or late fall. Here we are. So hello, Thistle Moon and Cheryl that just came in, and all the others. I saw Linda was here. And who else? Who else? I know Country Gal there. I said something to her there. The name thing, yeah, I wish they made it easier to just, unless there's something I'm missing, Country Gal. The only way I know to make sure that person sees is to either just type the name out or copy and paste it. You don't have to put the @ symbol, because as long as their full channel name is put, or account name is put in there, it'll show to them in yellow, orange, whatever. You guys know. I forget. One of those. And so it will stand out to them. I think it's orange. So it stands out to them, but only them. So they're like, oh, somebody's talking directly to me. As long as you put in the whole name, though. So that's why sometimes if they have a long name like yours, Country Gal in the City, copying it and pasting it tends to work better than trying to just type it. So anyway, hello all. Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. I have 2 topics today. Hopefully I can get them both done in one video and without getting cut off. And obviously the first one I'm going to be talking about is the natural hair care. Because I figured it's been a few years since I've done a video just on that. And it won't let you copy either. You should be able to highlight it, highlight the name, and then, let me try. Darn it. Let me see. Let me try again. Highlight. Of course, it's hard when the chat is jumpy. Yeah, I can copy. See, I can copy and paste your name. I'll show you what it looks like. It should look to you. To me, your name doesn't stand out, just mine does. But to you, it should look orange. It should. Without me having to add the @ symbol. But you can just keep it simple. Just put Country Gal or something, or whoever you're talking to. Or if you know their real name, like Deb. Anyway, yeah, so it's been a while since I've done the natural hair care. Not much has changed since then, but I think I probably got a few more things I can add in there, do a little update. Get a drink of water. My vocal cords seem to be doing better today than they were the other day. Of course, the last couple days I haven't done a lot of talking and no singing. We didn't have our fellowship yesterday or the week before, so there was no singing going on at all. Usually the Saturday, we go to our fellowship, we sing songs and we talk and we discuss the scripture and blah blah blah. So I had no reason to really wear out my vocal cords recently. So let me go ahead and get started on the topic. And mostly what I'm going to be talking about is what I do or have done for my hair. I kind of feel like now is a really bad time to talk about hair care because I've lost so much hair over the last several months due to high amounts of stress. I find even though I tend to lose more hair in the winter, like most people do, this year was especially bad. So my hair is a lot shorter and thinner than it once was. And that's why I wear it back a lot more because I have so many little baby hairs coming in to replace all the hair that I've lost. It's crazy. So, but yeah, I finally had to narrow it down to I've been under a lot of stress. And so, different, outside stress, not from Patrick, that's all good, but just, yeah, other things going on that have just been kind of hard to deal with within my family. So, and I could always use prayers on that and the family members that are going through their hardships could use some prayer. I don't like to be public about it because it's really their business, but, yeah, anyone who's willing to do that, I'd appreciate it. But, yeah, it's been wearing on me hard. So as a result, high amounts of stress can cause hair loss. I've heard of people under high amounts of stress, not just like for me, I just lose it all over evenly. But some people, when they're under a lot of stress, they can lose it in patches, which is kind of crazy. I knew one lady who was telling me years ago about, I don't remember what she was going through at the time, but she said she actually lost it. She had bald patches. And so that's why trying to find ways to cut back on the stress as much as some things you just can't, but sometimes you can find better ways to deal with it. In fact, right now in my dehydrators back here, well, in the bottom one, I'm only using the bottom one right now. And by the way, that bowl, that's my latest batch of fermentation starter bread. It's the only warm spot in the house right now because I don't have a fire going. So I got it sitting there in front of the dehydrator. But anyway, I've got drying in there a blend of herbs that I'm using to make my own special stress reduction tea. It's a new recipe I've come up with. Now, catmint and catnip and lemon balm, these are all good options, and I actually have a video out there somewhere on my main channel. I didn't plan on talking about this, but if you're trying to reduce the stress to help keep your hair from falling out, so it can be related. I do have a video on herbs and more to help with stress and anxiety, something like that. There's quite a few good ones, but I wanted to make something that had a really nice flavor. So I wouldn't have to be stressed out at drinking something I didn't like the taste of to try to reduce my stress. I think that kind of is counterintuitive to the purpose. So anyway, just so you know and thanks you guys. I appreciate that. I do appreciate that a lot. It's definitely needed. So I got lots of borage leaves I can collect right now, like lots and lots, because it's just coming up everywhere, which I'm thrilled because I've been feeding it to the chicks. The chickens all love the borage, but I decided, I just had this great idea because borage is really excellent as a stress reliever. What's the name of it? It's what do you call the action? Oh, I just had a brain cramp again. I've been doing that a lot lately in my shows. Adaptogen. It's an adaptogen. So any of your herbs that are adaptogen herbs are helpful at dealing with stress so that because they help your body to adapt to the stress. That's why it's called that. So borage is one of those, as well as holy basil, which is another one I have in there. And then I also have some just some, partly because I want to save some of the flowers for seeds, but also some valerian seeds, flowers, excuse me. So I cut a few of the valerian flowers and a few of the real small young leaves to throw in there, because the leaves and the flowers have a much nicer flavor than the root and aroma, and can be enough to just sort of add a little more, help calming, relaxation and all that to it. So it's those three things. So what I did first was I made a cold infusion out of those same three herbs to see if I was going to like it. And it tastes really, really good. So now I'm going to dry up a bunch and make my own tea blend for the rest of the year when I need it, when I don't have that stuff growing. Miner's lettuce, I believe is, if I remember correctly, Judy. And chickens, you can just throw whatever weeds to chickens and see what they'll eat. Don't blend stuff up though, because you don't know what's going to be good for them. But chickens by nature will know what they can and cannot eat. So um, if I'll throw a weed out there, or something is coming up that I have way too much of, I should say, um, and let them, they'll know. They just like instinctively kind of know, and they'll avoid the things they can't eat. But one of the things I just have so much coming up, and I don't even know for sure how it got in my garden in the first place a few years ago, but it is the lady's thumb. Now, lady's thumb is healthy and it's got good uh, benefits, to humans, but I have so much of it. And so I've been pulling up a lot of that and just throwing it to the chicks, and they have been devouring it. They love it. And it seems to be doing good for them. So that and the comfrey and some of the excess uh, lamb's quarters that's coming up, which I'm glad to see a lot of that coming up, because I haven't had a lot of that coming up in a few years. So it's nice to see that coming back. Anyway, yeah, so that's what I'm making my tea out of, are those three things. So the valerian flowers and a few other leaves, but mostly the borage leaves because they have just a really nice cucumber flavor. And then what did I say? The third one, the holy basil. So I was just thinking, I have a feeling the taste of the holy basil and the borage leaves would be really good together, and just a little bit of the valerian should have a nice balance. And I was correct. So anyway, so that's just for stress reduction. So let's get back to the hair thing. So let me talk a little bit about what I personally do. Obviously, each person, according to their hair, how oily or dry or curly or straight their hair is, it's all gonna, you got to tailor things to yourself. Now, I have very naturally curly hair, which typically, I'm not going to say this is the case all the way across the board, that the curlier your hair is, usually the drier it is. But I know people with really straight hair that can have super dry hair. So I do not wash my hair every day. And even on the days I wash my hair, I don't always use soap. So, or shampoo. Um, I wash my hair mostly with my homemade vinegar, as a lot of you already know. So I did link to the video on vinegar for hair wash, rinse, and why I make it. And I think in that video, I did it last year, I talk about some of the different herbs I'll use in there. I also linked to a video on herbs and more to help with hair growth. Because that's, things that are typically what you're going to look at as anything that's going to be good for your skin is also going to be good for your hair and vice versa. So, that's when I pick out herbs to put in the vinegars that I want to use in my hair. I don't just go for things I know for certain are good for hair. I go for the ones that I also know are good for skin, because I know that it goes either way. So anyway, if you have very dry hair, I don't recommend washing your hair every day. And even if you do have to wash your hair every day, and your hair's maybe medium, it's not oily, it's not really dry, I suggest skipping the soap some days. Like for me, when I say soap, I'm meaning anything that's going to have a soap in it, whether it be a natural shampoo, a hair soap, the bar soap that people use specifically for hair. And it doesn't have to be one that's made specifically for hair. Any natural bar soap is good. So I use, well, let me finish my thought. I have a tendency to do this a lot in my lives, but I do recommend just trying the vinegar. So in that video on the vinegar for the hair, I also show and explain how I use the vinegar, but I do water it down. I just you take my homemade vinegar, I pour it in a little squirt bottle, and then about that much in an 8-ounce bottle, and then top it off with water. So it could be as much as like a quarter cup in there of the vinegar, and the rest is just water. And then I shake it up, and then I squirt it over my hair and leave it in for a few minutes. Now, if I'm using any of my homemade soap or the Dr. Jacobs soap to wash first, then I'll still follow it up with a vinegar rinse. I found that's been not only very frugal, but it's also been very good for my hair, generally speaking. I haven't used any kind of store-bought shampoo in many years. Now, when I first started my channel, I was making my own shampoo by making like an herbal tea out of some of the herbs that I know are good for the hair, and then straining that out, and then taking a bar of my homemade soap and cutting it up or grating it, whatever. Usually I cut it up because I hate grating, and putting that into a pot, and then cooking it until, heating it through and stirring, stirring, stirring until all the soap is dissolved. And then I'd put that in a bottle, but I'd still have to do the same thing with it, like I do with the vinegar and like I do with the Dr. Jacobs. And I thought, you know what? I don't want to go through that hassle anymore. I found that I can either just use my bar soap, my homemade bar soap, and then wash. Okay, Judy says she lost me. I don't know if you mean you lost me the video. It looks like I'm still live. Anyone else? I'll wait for people to respond before I continue. Okay, see, are you back, Judy? Says Deb. So am I still here for everybody else? Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure, because when people say I lost you, I'm like, great. That means somewhere I got cut off and didn't notice it. Judy, if it's just spinning for you, you might need to refresh because everybody else is seeing me just fine. If I see several people say that, then I know it's YouTube. But you probably just need to refresh your page. Try doing that. Okay, she's just, well, I'm talking to her. She can't hear me. That was dumb. Let me type that in. Try refreshing. So just so you guys know, you can always try refreshing, but sometimes it's my end. That was dumb. Oh, you're just spinning. Well, obviously, and I'm blah, blah, blah. Good gravy. So what was I saying? Okay, so I was talking about the homemade bar soap. You can it doesn't matter. It can just be a simple soap. It can just be a soap that you made from nothing but water, lye, and coconut oil. And that'll be good enough. Now, I do find the ones that, like the one I made with hemp oil, because I had bought hemp oil years ago to cook with, and I decided I really didn't like the flavor of it. So I just used it up making soap, and it makes a very nourishing soap. And so I like using that one on my hair. Again, I just take the bar and just work it through my scalp. I don't work it through all of my hair since my hair is very dry, mostly just the scalp, the place where you're going to get most of the oils. And obviously, if you have hair that's oily through and through, you'd have to work it through all of your hair. And then again, follow it up with a vinegar rinse. So how often do I do that? At the very, very most, I might use a soap on my hair once a week, tops, never more than that. Sometimes I'll go several weeks. It just depends. A lot of it depends on whether or not I'm using my homemade oil, herb infused oil that I rub into my scalp, especially when I'm dealing with a lot of hair loss. And I haven't been losing my hair like that so much anymore. It's slowed way down. I think it's just pretty much normal right now. So I haven't really been using that, but I do also I don't think I linked to the video on the scalp, you know, the hair, I call it hair growth oil, but I don't like to, I always feel funny about it because I don't want to make any great claims that it's going to work for everyone, but it does have essential oils and herbs that can help with the hair growth. But one of the reasons I didn't link directly to that one is because I wanted to make sure you guys knew before you watch it, if you do go watch it, is that I've changed up my recipe a little bit. And since castor oil is really good to help with hair growth, I now do a blend, no more than half of it, castor oil, because castor oil is so thick, and I try not to have it be that thick on my scalp, and it gets on your pillowcases and stuff. Because it's best if you can massage it really good into your scalp and then leave it on overnight. You can always lay a towel over your pillow too. That's an option as well. So, oh, Dana has to leave. Oh, yeah, I get it. Yeah, okay. I understand. So, yeah, so that's one of the things you can do. Sometimes it's just the massaging the scalp, or taking your fingernails and just kind of doing this. Because what you're doing when you massage your scalp is you're increasing blood flow. So anything is going to help increase blood flow, which is also why I like to add red pepper flakes to the oil when I'm infusing. You can do like cayenne pepper or something but I don't like adding ground things that are real powdery to my infused oils, because it just kind of turns into a clump at the bottom, and it can also be a little harder to strain out. I don't think it might not matter that much depending on who you are, but I like using the red pepper flakes because it still infuses very well, and they strain out easily, and they don't just end up in a big mat at the bottom of the jar or bottle, whatever you're infusing in. So, but you can also use that same oil, like if it's just an herb infused oil and maybe you don't add the essential oils, you can even massage that through all of your hair for a special oil treatment. If you have, I do that every so often, even with the essential oils added to it. I just worry about too much of the essential oils possibly being damaging to the hair if it's too strong. Um, but yeah, you could just try making the herb infused oil, including the cayenne, and then or the red pepper flakes, massage that into your scalp, and then all through your hair if your hair is really dry, and then have it be like a hot oil treatment or something. Well, I mean, it's not going to be a hot oil treatment unless you warm it first, which is an idea. Brushes don't like my hair. I only use combs. I'm going to get to that in a bit though. So now the other soap that I like to use in is the Dr. Jacobs. So I have a link to their site, and I also have a link to the video I did several years ago. It was the first video I did, but they have some new soaps in now. And my two very, very favorites are what is it? The Black African soap or something like that. They have a few of those. And my two favorites are the one it's called Sensual Manoi and the Lavender Clary Sage. Oh my goodness, both of those smell good. The Sensual Manoi has a very, very tropical smell. And then I don't even know how to describe the Lavender Clary Sage, but I was so surprised at the smell. Because sometimes I like lavender and sometimes I don't, but the blend of the two, oh man, it smells so good. So when I use the Dr. Jacobs soap, which is a Castile soap, it's very, very similar to Dr. Bronner's, but I like it better. It's a little richer. And I contacted them. I initially had found their stuff at a pack of their soaps. Was it just the honey almond, which is another of my favorites. At Costco, and thought I'd give it a try. I liked it so much I contacted them and said, "Hey, would you guys be willing to do an affiliate?" Because I realized they had a separate web page. And so I hooked up with them several years ago, and I love them. So I do it the same way I do with the vinegar, except for I don't put as much in. So I take that same little squirt bottle, and I'll just put a squirt of that soap in there, just a squirt. You don't need very much because it's rather concentrated. And then I top it all the way up with water. So it's more water than it is a soap because like I said, it's pretty concentrated. And then I'll just squirt that through my hair. And that's when I do use a soap. Oftentimes I'm using one of those two, the Central Illinois or the um, lavender clary sage, and then sometimes a honey almond, which I don't know if they, last I looked, I didn't see honey almond, but they have an almond one. It's just called almond. But they all smell really good. I'm assuming it's the same one. So, and anyway, the one of the reasons I linked to that video on the Dr. Jacobs soap that I did was I was talking about all the many ways you can use it because you can use it for so many things. I've used it in laundry just to try it out. I've used it to wash dishes just to try it out. You're not going to get suds just like with any really natural soap. When you try to use it for something like that, it's not going to suds up the way your shampoos that you buy at the store, or the things that they have added stuff in them to make them suds up like that. So you're not going to get that same effect. So that's why squirting it through makes it easier, watered down, squirting it through to work it through your hair because you don't have those suds to help you work it through. But it's a very frugal, very natural way to wash your hair. And obviously using the homemade vinegar alone, diluted, is the most frugal and natural way to clean your hair. And the great thing about the homemade vinegar, especially when you're using herbs to make that vinegar that are super good for your hair and your skin and your scalp, right? Because your scalp is skin, then you're getting the benefits of those herbs. And then vinegar naturally is very conditioning to hair. So obviously, if you have oily hair, you want to be careful. You might not want to use as much vinegar in the hair. You might want to, cut it down, only maybe use a quarter cup of the vinegar in an 8-ounce bottle of water, or mix with enough water to make 8 ounces. And because some people say if they go too much vinegar, like I had somebody saying they were using just straight homemade vinegar, and it's like, it might leave your hair really heavy. And you don't need that much anyway. So, you don't want to waste it either, homemade or not, even if it's practically free to make. You still got to make it. It still takes 30 days ish. So, okay, so I talked about the vinegar, the homemade soap, and Dr. Jacobs. Oh, another thing I like to do as a finishing treatment, since all this stuff gets rinsed out, oftentimes I forget to say, after, I put the vinegar in the hair, I leave it on for a few minutes. So I might be washing my face or something while I'm letting that sit. And then I rinse it out. That's the last thing I do before I get out of the shower is I rinse the vinegar out. You don't want to leave it in your hair. It could make it really heavy. But it doesn't make your hair smell like vinegar, by the way, especially if you rinse it out. If you have any scent left in your hair from the vinegar, it's usually from whatever you used to make it. I've actually used like a pineapple vinegar that I made in my hair and actually left it smelling kind of like pineapple, but not like vinegar, because once it's dry, the vinegar smell's gone. So anyway, the other thing I like to do as a finishing treatment every now and then, because my hair is so dry, and if I can tell it's going to be one of those days because it's kind of humid or whatever where it's going to get frizzy, then while my hair is still wet, I'll take just a little tiny dollop, maybe about the size of a dime, of my homemade skin cream and just work it through my hair, especially through the ends. And that helps quite a bit. It conditions the hair. It's really good for the hair. Remember, it's skin cream. It's good for your skin. It's good for your hair and vice versa. But you can also do something as simple as coconut oil is a really good option because it's not as heavy as other oils. Just a little bit of just plain old coconut oil. Work that through your hair or just through the ends. Olive oil is another really good one. Pretty much any of your healthy natural oils like that. I mean, you could use beef tallow if you want, if you don't care, if your hair smells like a steak. Your husband might like it. I actually did that the other day because I had some I was doing something with some beef tallow and I had some on my hands. And so I just went like this and rubbed it on my face. I'm like, okay, now I smell like steak. It felt good on my skin, but I smelled like steak. But yeah, I mean, any of the good, healthy, natural oils like that can, be good finishing treatments or even just to rub into the ends of your hair. You don't have to go to the store and buy some fancy hot oil treatments. I always think of the VO5 hot oil treatments. They always had commercials for those. I don't know if they still sell that stuff, but it's so expensive when all you need to do is just go to your kitchen and get some olive oil or coconut oil and do that. So I do tend to prefer to use my skin cream though. So the skin cream has the shea butter, the herb infused oil, um, the coconut oil, and the avocado oil all in it. Oh wait, no, the avocado is the herb infused oil. What am I leaving out? Oh, the beeswax. I have a little beeswax in there too. So Gudrun says she washes her hair once a month in the summer because I can make nice hibiscus shampoo during winter every 3 to 4 months. Wow, you can go a long time. I do know that the for some people who wash their hair every day, skipping a day can feel really tough to do. It's really hard. I wash my hair. I could go longer for how dry my hair is, but the problem is my hair tends to pick up a lot of stuff because it just picks up everything and then it just gets really insane. And so I do like to at least give it a good vinegar rinse a couple of times a week. So 3 times a week my hair gets cleaned, and otherwise it gets so matty, and I can keep combing it and it'll just mat right up again. So yeah, that it's not because it gets oily and greasy, it's just because it catches everything. All the fuzzes. Oh, that was I changed my text message alert because the chime was confusing me, even though I've used it for years. Um, anyway, let me read this real quick. Sorry. Okay, sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, sorry. Got to reply. Family stuff again. So, okay, what did Rebecca ask? I do know of a dry cleaner for the hair. Oh, I've heard of people using something that's totally natural, and yeah, Velcro hair, Michelle. Exactly. That's what it turns into. But I I don't remember. Every time I think of a dry shampoo, I remember that old Laverne and Shirley episode where one of them was trying the dry shampoo thing, and it was horrible. Funny the things that make you remember stuff like that. Let's see. I don't know if it's really that bad. It's just as bad as that episode was, but it just makes me not want to try it. Oh, was it something involving bentonite clay maybe? Because I think the clay would absorb oils. But at any rate, usually it's something like a powder. You put it in your hair and you can just comb it through. But you'd have to comb it all out. So that way you don't even have to bother wetting your hair down. Yeah. Yeah, rosemary oil is one of the essential oils I add to the hair growth oil because it might, it's one of those I add in there. So rosemary, lavender, peppermint can be good too because it is really good for, especially when you massage it into your scalp to help with hair growth as well, to stimulate hair growth. I use cornstarch sometimes. Maybe it was a cornstarch mixed with bentonite clay because cornstarch can absorb that kind of stuff too. Trying to remember. I've never tried it because all I can ever think of is that Laverne and Shirley episode. I don't know if you guys ever watched Laverne and Shirley or remember which one I'm talking about. Oh, let's see. Okay, so let's talk about the combs. And by the way, I want to come back to the scalp massage oil. So I call, even though I call it a hair growth oil, it can still be, just even if you don't need something to help with hair growth, it can still be a good idea just to help with the general health of your hair and your scalp. And like I said, you can add the essential oils or leave out the essential oils, as long as you have a good infused herb infused oil and maybe some castor oil you can mix in there. That's going to be really good for it. So I follow a gal on YouTube that has a video doing a wet render for tallow. She does the same process multiple times and it does not leave a beef smell. Yeah, I've never actually tried to render any. This is some I bought from Azure Standard just to try it. I thought it's rendered, but it's not highly processed, so it still smells like beef, which is fine with me. I wanted to try it and I'm like, oh, well, I probably wouldn't buy it again because it was expensive. And I just take the fat when I do a beef roast and it has any fat in it, floats to the top or anything like that. I just, after it's chilled, then I just pull off those big chunks of fat that float to the surface and just rinse them off and save them. I just rinse them off so there's not so much stuff in there, but I use those to fry potatoes and stuff. I didn't, it's like I can do the same thing. If I'm just going to use it to cook with, I'll just continue doing that because it's a lot less expensive than buying the tallow. But anyway, like I said, it was just something I wanted to try. So, anyway, the combs. Let's talk about combs. So I'll show you the combs I have. This is the one I've been using most recently. And it seems like every time I find the perfect for me sandalwood comb, these are all sandalwood. I highly recommend sandalwood no matter what kind of hair you have. The style, of course, of comb or brush, you can get sandalwood brushes too, which I've never bought because brushes are pointless when you have curly hair and it just gets all tangled in there. So a wide tooth comb, they make wider ones than this, and they also make finer ones. I did link to this particular one. But anyway, I've been using it for years. And the first one I had, I ended up breaking somehow. And then the last one I had, Patrick did fix it, but until he did, I was like, I got to get another comb. And it broke because I stepped on it because I left it. I sit on the floor. And I didn't see it, didn't know it was still laying there, and I stepped on it and broke it. But he fixed it for me and put a little dowel through because it broke right here. Anyway, so I like this one so much, and they're not that expensive. And for backups, I bought myself 2 more. Now you'll notice part of the reason this one's darker is just because it's been used more, but it was naturally darker. If you look at these, each one is a little bit different in color because each one is, it's pure sandalwood. And when you buy them, they're each going to be a little bit unique. That's what you got to expect when you're buying anything made from real wood. And so I really, really like these and I highly recommend them. They smell amazing. I just love the smell. I just sit here and go, they smell so good, but sandalwood's so good for your hair. It's natural. You're not getting all that plastic and stuff that causes all the static in your hair. So you're not going to get that. There's no static. It's just very, very good for your hair. So I highly, highly recommend going sandalwood. And like I said, I know the link I put down there has a few different styles. I like the ones with the handles, but you can get the kind where it's a comb all the way across. And like I said, they have the rat tail kind that's got the fine tooth, which again, that's another one that would be pointless for me to use. Too fine. But anyway, and by the way, the Dr. Jacobs soap has the sandalwood too. I buy that one as well. I actually mix up for Patrick to use as a shampoo. I keep a diluted mix in the shower for him of the sandalwood. And it smells so nice. So, and I would use it on my hair too, because I love the smell of sandalwood, but I really like those other smells, just probably a little bit better for washing my hair with. So That link doesn't have brushes in it, but you can just do a search and you can find, if you're one that needs a brush, you can find some that are made entirely. Some of them just have maybe a sandalwood handle and then a boar's bristles on them. But I did see some that were entirely sandalwood. So the teeth, the bristles, as well as the handle. Obviously, they're going to be spread out a little bit more. I think those all of those had like the rubber base though that the bristles go into. So, and then hairspray. I almost forgot about the hairspray. So, I have a recipe. I don't think I linked to it either. I think I forgot to gather that link. So, I have a link. I have two videos out there. So, Deb, if you mind going and finding that link, look for the one that looks the newest. It's still going to be at least a few years old, but the other one's really old. I don't like my older videos because the sound is so quiet and the picture is so much darker. So usually I always try to go for the most recent videos when I'm linking people to them. But anyway, making your own hairspray if you need it. Like I rarely ever use hairspray, but when I'm wearing my hair like this and I've got all these little teeny tiny hairs that are replacing all the hair I lost, wanting to just go this way and that way and that way and that way and every which way, I do like having that hairspray and it's 100% natural. It's so simple. Your two main ingredients, sugar and water. That easy. And you're not putting that much sugar in there. And how much sugar you add is going to depend on how much hold you want. And no, I've not had issues with bees attacking my head because when I'm wearing it, because it's not going to be that strong. And then you can add either some, like I made some one time, I think in one of the videos I did, I just used like about a tablespoon for 8 ounces of Captain Morgan spice rum for the smell, but also because it's a spirit, it would prevent it from spoiling. So you want something in there that's going to help prevent spoilage because if it's just water, and your sugar, it can spoil. But putting something in there like that will help prevent that. You can also try using some of the precious metal water. I've done that too. In fact, now I think about it, I wonder if I mentioned that in that video. Thanks, Deb. But yeah, so you can use I don't recommend rubbing alcohol. You can put that in there too, the isopropyl alcohol, but it's not, I don't recommend that. It'd be better to go with something like vodka, rum, or something like that to put in there. You don't need very much to preserve it. In fact, that bottle of hairspray I'm using, I went ahead and sprayed a little bit on after I put my hair up like this. I made that, I don't know how many years ago. I've been using the same bottle of hairspray forever. It's not spoiled. It still smells good. I put a little bit of um, orange and clove essential oils in them for a nice aroma, and you can do that too. So it's super easy. It's super easy. You just might have to play with a little bit to find exactly how much sugar you want to add per water. It again, depending if you want light hold, medium hold, heavy hold. It's just so easy. It's so cheap. You know exactly what you're spraying on yourself. It's great. I love that I can make my own hairspray for practically nothing. And then another thing is another video I forgot to link, Deb, is the one on the clay mask that I make for my hair or for my face. I've used that on my hair from time to time. I don't really like doing it just because it's kind of a messy job. But the bentonite clay in there and the other stuff, especially now that I'm adding like the oil, like a little bit of olive oil to the clay mixture when I make it. So again, you have to see my most recent video for that. That's going to be very conditioning to your hair. And also the bentonite clay in there is going to help pull any impurities, heavy metals and stuff out of your hair. And so I like the results I get. Part of it is remembering to do it. And then when I do remember to do it, going, I don't feel like, because I have to remember to do it before on the day I'm going to shower and wash my hair. Because you want to put it in there, you want to leave it in just like you would a face mask, leave it until it's dry, and then you get in the shower and rinse it out. It's the putting it in part that I really is not that fun. If you have shorter hair, you probably wouldn't mind it as much, but it is a good option. It can help detoxify the hair, and it just, I don't know. I like the way it left when I remember to do it. It leaves my hair really soft. So let's see. Was there anything else? I think that was it. I feel like I might be forgetting something, but no, I think that's it. It's just like with anything else, it can be so very inexpensive to just go natural, a more natural way to take care of yourself, your skin, your hair, and all of that. And, instead of spending a whole bunch of money on skincare and hair care products, and you don't even know what's in a lot of that stuff. A lot of times it's stuff that's really not good for you. So I haven't bought skincare products and hair care products other than Dr. Jacob's soap in years, in many years. So what else was I going to say about that? I mean, the same goes for like beauty products. Um, Even though I make my own mascara, but I go through spurts where I'm trying different things. Like lately, I've been using a lot of waterproof mascara. And so I've been trying different brands of that. It's really hard to find a good all natural waterproof mascara. And the homemade mascara is not waterproof. But other than that, um, you can do a lot to you can make your own mascara, you can make your own lip colors. If you know how to make your own lip balm, all you got to do is add some color to that. It can be like beetroot powder or whatever. I don't really like lipstick, but I did do a video, another one, because I wasn't necessarily going to talk about beauty products, but another video I did, I think last year, was on um, using mica powders for makeup. And that'd be like eye color, lip color, even a rouge, a cheek color. And it might seem kind of spendy if you're going to buy a box that has a ton of colors in it, but in the long run, it'll last you forever. And it would probably cost you as much to buy one box of a whole bunch of different mica colors, mica powder colors. Probably cost you as much for that as it would for buying a high-end eyeshadow or lipstick, just one. So, yeah, so you can do a lot with mica powder. So I did have like a couple of months there where I was playing with the different colors, and I'd shoot my videos so people could see what they look like, doing the lip colors, playing with some different things. And it's like so easy. So when I did the lip color, I just like put on my lip balm or my skin cream. That's what I use as a lip balm. Put the skin cream on my lips first, and I take a little brush and then use the two colors I'd like to mix together, which was, well, there's a few different ones because I was trying a few different ones. Like the rose gold with the plum rose, I think, was the one that looked really good. Something like that. And it was a real pretty color. I just don't like wearing that kind of stuff. And here's a side note, by the way. When I was doing that for a couple months, wearing the lip color and doing the eye color and stuff, I had somebody who I think she stopped following me altogether because of that. She got really upset because I was wearing makeup. And what she probably doesn't realize is ever since I've had my channel, I've always worn at the very least mascara and eyeliner. At least mascara. And then I started going back to wearing eyeliner when I'm shooting videos because I noticed, and especially in my dark videos before I had better lighting, it just made my eyes look so tiny, just like in theater. Because anytime you're on a stage, you have to overdo it on the makeup. Otherwise, your eyeballs can look like two pea holes in the snow, as my mother would say. So, yeah, and the same applies to when you're shooting videos. It does kind of help to have a little bit of extra. But other than that, I don't wear I don't like wearing lipstick. I don't like wearing cheek colors and stuff like that, but I do have videos on how to make your own face powder, and I have also, when I think about it, I try to work on making like a foundation that's more of a I have the face powder, but I'm trying to develop something that a person can use as a foundation for a cover up, because that is something I'll do from time to time. Because just like with the stress making my hair fall out, I've had a lot more breakouts than I've seen in probably close to 20 years in the past couple of months. I'm like, "This is crazy." And so, yes, in that case, I do like having something to cover up. And the face powder that I make does can be helpful, but I did finally have to resort to using, like a concealer, which I did put a little bit on. It's getting better. My skin's getting, just like my hair's getting better. My skin's been getting better, but I do have a little bit here, a couple little spots. And I don't see anything wrong with that. People can call it vanity if they want, but, you know, whatever. Some people get a little bent out of shape. I mean, I'm not one that cares for a lot of heavy makeup on anyone, but I'm not going to judge people because of that. You got to do what makes you feel good, as long as you're not doing it for the purpose of trying to attract men, especially if you're married. I mean, come on, ladies, admit it. A lot of what we do is more to impress our friends than the guys. Thank you for that, rich girl. Oh, my skin has not been as good as I mean, it's been better the last more recent days, but boy, I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, I haven't seen my skin do this in so many years. It's crazy." But I do tell you this, the natural skin cream does help quite a bit. When another thing I was putting on, the little breakouts, is the precious metal liquid. That helps a lot, just kind of dabbing it on there to help it heal up, because it is, antibacterial. And then put my skin cream over that, or even the healing salve, which is pretty much very close to the skin cream. I just use a little bit different essential oils in it. If I need something that has, more powerful healing properties, and that can help quite a bit. So yeah, the stress is just it does is so hard on your body. It makes you lose your hair, it makes your skin break out, it can cause digestive issues, it can cause sleep problems. So, but yeah, anyway, for the most part, I really just don't wear much. So most of the time it's just a mascara and eyeliner, and that's it. Um, So, but isn't it funny how petty some people are? They're just like, "Well, I'm not going to follow you anymore because you started wearing makeup." And my whole purpose of doing the colors was so I could show people that who do like that and do want to do that kind of thing, there is a more natural and frugal way to go about it. That was the main reason I bought the mica powders and started playing with them. And then once I shot that video, I haven't worn them since. Anyway, some people just like to be judgmental. The problem I have is that usually when people are that way, it's because they think they're more holy than those people who choose to wear makeup. It'd be no different than me. Any of you ladies out there that like to wear jeans or pants, saying, "I'm better than you because I choose to wear skirts, long flowing skirts." That's stupid. I don't do that. Though I do think modesty is, especially if you're a Christian, is very, very important. But a lady can wear pants and be modest. I get a little irritated at people that act like they can't. I mean, you can still look like a lady. You're not dressing like a man just because you're wearing pants. Anyway, but mine's my own personal choice and my own personal convictions, and also finding what works best for me, what I can move in easily enough. It does have its downsides because I like my skirts really full so I can kick and do whatever I want. And sometimes when I'm out in the garden, I get hung up on something and it's really frustrating. And then, you know, it's a matter of getting rid of the things I get hung up on, like the ladder that got left out. I finally moved it, or a tiller that's not really in the best spot. I mean, that's a little frustrating. That's less likely to happen if you're wearing jeans. But to me, jeans have their own problems too. I hate jeans. I hate trying to move in jeans. The closest I can do to have wearing jeans and have something I can actually move in is really baggy overalls. I want something I can bend and move and all that. And then I have my pockets too, because I put pockets in my skirt. So I don't have to, I don't have to worry about that. Anyway, I wasn't going to get onto that topic. And here I am. My late grandfather always said a little paint on the barn once in a while was a good thing. There was something else I was going to say, because I've had some people come in and just berate me up one side and down the other, and taking scripture out of context to try to make me sound like I was just a really bad Christian because I wore makeup at all. It's like, I think it's time you get off your high horse and maybe start looking at where you need to clean up your own life. Like, judging others and thinking you're more spiritual. Anyway, that's their problem. All right. Now let's move on to this topic number 2. So a lot of people saw my picture of the arnica. My arnica that is blowing up this year, and I'm so excited. They're like, "Oh, I've tried for so long." Trust me, I get it. I get it, because I tried for years to get arnica. The first year, I was all excited because the very first year I tried growing arnica, I planted it. It sprouted. It started growing. I started it, and then I planted it in a special little garden area. And I was so excited to get arnica. It didn't flower in the first year, but it flowered in the second year. But when the flowers opened up and I'm looking at them and I'm like, those look a lot bigger than I thought they would be. In fact, the whole plant seemed a lot bigger than I thought it should be. And I said something about it. I posted something about it on YouTube, I think it was, or somewhere. And somebody goes, "That looks like coreopsis." And so I'm like, I did some photo comparisons looking at arnica and coreopsis, and I'm like, it's coreopsis. So I ended up with the wrong seed. It happens sometimes. And so here I was so excited, and I didn't have arnica. The coreopsis does have benefits too, and I even did a video on that. But so I had to start all over. And then the second time I tried, I can't even remember if I got anything to germinate, or I did and it all died. Third time, I was finally successful and ended up with like 2 or 3 little plants. I had planted a lot more than that. But that's the thing, is whenever you're trying to grow something in an area that it's not climatized to, then it can be a little bit of a struggle. And sometimes, and I've shared some of this before, that there's certain things that if you can find an herb that grows really well for you in your climate, it's better to go ahead and go with that herb if it's going to have the same properties as this other herb that you really want to grow. Now, I really want to grow arnica, even though I already have comfrey that has a lot of the same benefits. I really also wanted to have arnica because, as I'd said before, arnica itself, to buy the dried flowers, is one of the most expensive herbs I've seen. It is like horribly expensive, but I do know, at least for me, the two combined, the arnica and the comfrey, have really helped in several occasions now heal up broken toes and with sprains and more. And so it was really important for me to have arnica. So I wanted to keep trying. However, just remember that if it's not something that naturally grows in your area, maybe you'd be better off first looking to see if there's an herb that does something very similar or grows naturally or grows wild. But if, like me, when it came to the arnica and it came to the marshmallow, what was another one I struggled with for a few years, you're determined you're going to grow it and you want to keep trying. Here's the suggestions I'm going to make. This is all going to obviously depend on your hardiness. So hardiness that's where zones come in. It's good to know what your zone is, because if you're trying to find something that can handle how cold your winters get, that's the important thing. You want to make sure that whatever that plant is, it's going to fall within that hardiness zone. I never even look at that because we're in such a moderate area that as far as that goes, as far as hardiness, we have such mild winters. It's just not, I don't have to worry about that. So I don't pay any attention to the zone. But if you have very, very cold winters, very harsh winters, you will need to pay attention to that. And if it's not something that's going to last through a harsh winter, then I would say it's probably not worth growing unless you can grow it indoors or move it indoors every winter. Then maybe. So you got to work around what you have. Now, what's important to me when I'm looking at growing something is the overall climate, which a lot of people assume that zone means climate, and it does not. It does not, because you can have, there's people, and I always talk about Deep South Homestead when I say this, because I know where they live, they're actually in the same zone as me, but our climates are as opposite as they could possibly be. Opposite, very, very opposite. So I can't go by, oh, they're in the same zone as me and they're growing this, that should work for me. Nope. Nope. Believe me, I've tried. So sometimes too is finding a variety of the certain herb or vegetable or fruit that will grow in your area. But even then, it can be about going, okay, I'm going to make this work. So just like with the mullein, just like with the marshmallow and with the arnica, it's about starting things inside, especially if you live in a cooler climate. But even if you don't, I always recommend starting new herb seeds in particular in pots somewhere. If you have a pretty warm climate, you could probably do this outside, but I still recommend starting them in pots. This is going to do a couple of things. It's going to help you. You're going to be like, okay, I know this is in this pot. I know this is in this pot, et cetera, et cetera. So, and you're starting with a good sterile soil, so you don't have other things coming up that you could confuse this new herb with. So that's important to me. I want to have sterile soil. I don't use any soil out of my garden that could have lady's thumb seeds or something else, feverfew seeds, because my feverfew seeds go everywhere. My valerian seeds go everywhere. Valerian's another hard one. That's another hard one. It took me a few years to get that one going. But you got to just keep trying. And all you need to do is get one plant that will make it. But if you start it in a pot, like in cooler climates, definitely start it either inside or in a greenhouse. Give it time to get to at least this tall, at least about 5 to 6 inches tall, maybe less. And then move it outside. Again, if you're in a warmer climate, you wouldn't have to wait that long. You could just plant it outside in a pot and just watch it and keep it in that pot. I recommend keeping it in a pot through the whole season, through the whole next year. Don't put it in the ground right away. Keep it in the pot. That's what I did with the marshmallow. I was finally able to, that's what I do with most of them. Once they get to a certain height, I'll transplant them into a bigger pot somewhere where I can watch them, and I'll maybe have that outside. and watch how well they do and then leave them out there. I don't leave them inside. I don't leave them in the greenhouse. I leave them outside so they can go through the whole winter and see if they'll make it. If they make it, great. And they come back the next year. If there's something that doesn't flower until the second year, then if I can get it to get into that second year and get seeds from it, then those seeds are going to be acclimated to the area. So, like with the marshmallow, as much as it took me several years to finally get some marshmallow to grow for me. And now I, just like with the arnica, just like with the valerian, and what else? What I just listed something else. The marshmallow, valerian, arnica. I already forgot. Well, you guys heard it. Anyway, those things come up all over the place now. I have marshmallow plants trying to come up in my strawberry pots. Even though it took a while to get some good acclimated seed. The mullein, that was the other thing. And what I thought was mullein coming up from the seed that fell, by the way, wasn't. But I started some mullein again with the seeds that I got from a friend, and I'll start some more this next year. Now that I know it's biennial, not perennial, so that I can always have some new mullein plants going in the ground. Because to me, it looks like the mullein here, even if the seeds fall, it's still best to start it inside, and any plant that makes it through that first year will flower in the second year, and then it will die. And so I want to be able to have that where I can keep rotating it. But at any rate, once something is acclimated to your area, then you can keep taking the seeds from that plant and keep growing it. And if it's just like the valerian, that's another one. It's like, wow, as much as I struggled to get the valerian to grow, actually, if the main struggle with that was getting it to germinate in the first place. And then once I finally got some plants, borage is the same way. I got borage coming up everywhere, just everywhere. I never have to plant it ever, ever, ever. And that's an annual. I never have to plant it. But the calendula, I have to save the seeds and plant again because of our climate. Even though it's climatized to this area, it just doesn't come back well from seed that falls. I have to start it at a certain time of the year, maybe even start it in the greenhouse. There's a few things like that I still have to do that with, but not everything. So it's some of it's just going to take experience and just practicing. And then the other thing I wanted to say that's really key to this is also when you do let's say you finally get a few arnica plants. And it's not even just about knowing how much sun that thing likes, whatever that plant is, because that's important. You need to know how much water, how much sun it likes. Like rosemary likes a lot of sun and not a lot of water. So it took me a long time to find just the right place to put my rosemary where it will just go ballistic. And that I found that one place. It did okay in the West Herb garden under the eaves there. Much better in the south facing little narrow strip of garden where it's getting a lot more sun and the protection from too much rain because it's up against the house. So with that in mind, you got to keep experimenting. So usually what I do when I have new plants that I'm trying and I do get several successful starts, I will take those starts when I do put them in the ground. I will put them in different places around some in the back, some in the side, some in the front, maybe, maybe on the deck, maybe not. Excuse me, throat's starting to itch. And then you'll be able to see where it's going to like it best. And then you'll know, okay, this is a good spot. It's got the right soil conditions. It's got just the right amount of sun, just the right amount of protection from either too much sun or too much rain or too much cold and snow in the wintertime. You'll figure that out. It's going to take practice because here's the deal. A lot of people think I have the answers to all of their gardening problems. I don't. I am not a master gardener. I never took a gardening course, at least from, something I had to pay for and get some certification. No, my gardening course is just been my own experiment. It's like, put some stuff in the ground and see what it does. Okay, well, that didn't work, but that did. And then, well, that didn't even germinate. So let me try again doing it this way indoors in a pot. So, that's why, again, especially with herbs, always start them inside, especially any kind of new herb. And or herbs that I know need that extra boost. Echinacea is another one that, it's perennial, but if I were to let it try, it will self seed, but here it will not grow from seed that just falls to the ground. I have to start it indoors. Once I got a good established plant, it'll keep coming back every year. It's getting it established. It's getting it first to germinate, getting it to establish. Once it's established and well rooted, it'll keep coming back. So I was going to say about the valerian, like if you're trying to grow valerian, which by the way, I do sell valerian seeds. I sell mosa seeds. I don't sell mullein because I thought I wasn't collecting any seed last year, except for those ones that I decided to go ahead and collect and then ended up getting all messed up. Um, Thankfully, my friend the year before gave me a lot of mullein seeds, so I still have a lot of that. But now I just had a brain cramp. What was I going to say? I was talking about the valerian. Okay, so even though that will drop seed and I'll get little valerian plants coming up, and I just give them away to locals, anyone who wants a valerian plant or a marshmallow plant. Here, I got these plants coming up. Does anybody want any? Um, since the valerian, to get it started the first time, what I learned with that, and you might try this with other seeds that you've tried several times and it didn't do anything, is to score the seeds, which is tricky because valerian seeds, like a lot of your herb seeds, are very small. So, but what I do is I put the valerian seeds in my hand and just took some sandpaper and did the best I could to kind of sand them a little bit, really carefully, so that I was scoring them. And once I did that, I was finally able to get them to germinate. You could also try, I didn't try this with them, but you could also try the stratification thing by freezing any seeds. And I don't always do that. I almost always forget to do that, but stratification can also be a good way to get your seeds to come back. And that could be why, maybe why some seeds don't come back, is because we don't get harsh enough winters that the seeds would freeze and become stratified. But for whatever reason, I can save the seeds. I don't have to freeze them, and I can start them in the greenhouse, and or even just plant them later in the season directly into pots and they'll grow. But if they fall to the ground and stand there, it's very rare I'll get calendula that will come up from seed that fell from the plant. So it's just funny. You just learn these things as you go. It's really all about the what's the word? Experience. I kept trying to say experiment, but it's experimenting too. The experiment is part of the learning process. And the thing about that, this is the kind of learner I am. I learn best by doing anyway. That's why I don't want to pay for herbal courses. I don't want to pay for gardening courses. I'm not going to pay for courses that I'm going to sit through and go, what all they just say? My attention span when it comes to that kind of stuff is not great. I have too many different things that my mind will start rabbit trailing. I mean, you see how I talk. I do the same thing in my thoughts. And so it's hard for me to stay focused and then, that have that information always be ready for me to just grasp when I need it. And I know it's in there somewhere. It's finding it. So when I do the thing though, and I try the thing and I come up with my own ideas, I'm like, well, I'm going to try this. I've never heard of anyone doing this, but since I see how this and that does, let me try to see if this will work for this thing. And I try it. And when it works, when it fails, I'm going to remember that didn't work. When it works, I'm going to remember that worked. And but it doesn't mean you can't also keep trying something new. I I was surprised when my mullein turned out to be annual. So there is an annual one. Huh, interesting. I wonder if those ones, grow better from the seed than the biennial one. I wish I could have a perennial one. I don't know if there is such a thing. I know there's such thing as perennial basil. I did look it up. I'd like to have a perennial basil, but what I'm concerned about is if I'd like the flavor as much as the big leaf, the sweet basil. That's my favorite when it comes to cooking with it and adding fresh to salads. I mean, I would love to have there's a lot of plants I would love that they were perennial. But things like the holy basil just grow, it won't grow. No basil does well outside my greenhouse, but the holy basil I never have to plant. The seed it'll come back from I end up with too many holy basil plants in the pot because it self-seeds so easily, but my sweet basil doesn't work that. It doesn't do the same thing, which is a bummer. So, but I'm glad at least the holy basil does. So once I got the holy basil, I've never had to plant it again. I just let it get its flowers when I'm done harvesting, and then the seeds will fall and I'll pull the plants out. Usually when I pull this is probably why I get so many. When I pull the plants out, the dead plants in the early spring, usually by then or late winter, early spring, I just strip whatever seeds might be on there still, just strip them and let them drop into the pot and then get it ready for the new year. And that's all, all I have to do. I don't have to save the seeds, nothing. So yeah, well, let me see here. I always got to look at my notes because I want to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Oh, I know one of the things I was going to say is some people say that they have such a hard time starting certain mints from seed. Now, I thought I was going to have a hard time starting horehound from seed because it's in the mint family. And mints a lot of times can be hard to start from seed. Apparently not my lemon balm. And if that's the case, if you keep trying and you just can't get the seeds to germinate, then I recommend going ahead and getting yourself some starts. I mean, when it came to my lavender, though I have successfully grown lavender from seed from my own plants. Oh, no, it was from seed I bought. The lavender that did best for me were the ones that I bought as starts, and then they've just done beautifully. I did pull up some older plants over here though that weren't coming back so well this year, and I'm gonna put some new starts in there. But sometimes it doesn't cost. It costs about as much for a start as it does for a pack of seed. Now, the nice thing about a pack of seed is if they're all going to germinate, you can have quite a few plants. But if none of them germinate, you don't have any plants. Or you can go down and you can buy a rosemary. I mean, that's how I got all this peppermint around here from one peppermint plant I bought, a start. Same thing with the orange mint, the lemon balm, the mojito mint. I got that all over the place, and one plant. And all the rosemaries were starts that I bought. So you can get starts. Even if they're not labeled organic, it would be the GMO thing I'd worry about more. I would say just grow it for a few years if you're concerned about it not being organic. Grow it for a few years in organic soil. It's going to be organic. Okay, maybe not even, it probably wouldn't even take a few years. You just might not want to harvest anything off it in the first year. So, and it might be too small anyway. I usually, when I have starts, especially when I buy them, I never harvest anything off of them in the first year, whether they be organic or not, because I want this plant to get established and I don't want to do anything that could be detrimental to its growth and its ability to come back the next year or to give me seed so I can plant it again. I could grow lavender fine in Washington, but here I struggle getting it wintered over. Tammy, you must live in a place with harsher winters. Typically in Washington, on our side of Washington, It's getting it to, just like with rosemary, it typically doesn't like a whole lot of moisture, but I'm finding the lavender likes more water than the rosemary for certain. I think that's why some my lavender over here wasn't doing great because it wasn't getting enough water. Where the lavender in the backyard gets a lot of rain all year round. It's happy. It's huge. I can think it's massive. It started out like this big and now it's like this. It's big. And I was kind of concerned planting it there. I'm like, I don't know how well it's going to do because it's going to be collecting a lot of rain because none of the rosemary would do good anywhere in an unsheltered area here. It died every year. I kept buying rosemary starts and having them die because once the winter came and it would get all that rain, they just drown. Even in the hanging pots, they still got too much rain. But up against the house made a big difference. And so one of the reasons I keep bringing up the rosemary story is because it's a matter of just finding the right place. So that might be the same thing with the lavender. If you have harsh winters, then you might want to try planting it up next to a structure where it can be more sheltered from the harsher winter. Because that's the other thing with the rosemary being planted up right next to the house. Because they do tend to like drier and warmer climates, all through the winter, it's going to stay more sheltered and more warm. So, not just sheltered from too much water, but sheltered from too much cold, even though we don't have harsh winters. So, my dad had a lavender bush that came up every year, and all the winters in Germany are harsh, close to the Alps. See, here, the lavender doesn't even die back. It just gets a new growth come spring. It doesn't die back. It stays green. Not pretty green. It will look a little sad through the winter. But same with the rosemary. It's I think they're both related to evergreens. But they're also considered somewhere in the mint family, which that one confuses me. At least I know rosemary is. I'm like, really? That doesn't make sense to me. Even my thyme stays green all year round. It just doesn't get new growth in the winter. Okay, so Judy, you brought, what was it? I want to see what you're talking about. I'm going to scroll. Sandy soil, 2 plants. I'm still scrolling up. Oh, lavender. It might need more. If it's sandy soil, that could be part of the problem. Now, like I said, I keep my lavender's in the ground. It stays outside all year round. So, but yeah, now that I figured out, I think part of the reason I had some struggling lavender plants over here is because I don't always water the West Herb Garden because a lot of the herbs over there don't need that much water. And I think it wasn't getting enough sun, but also mostly not getting enough water. And I'm like, I bet that's what's going on with that lavender. So now I'm making sure it gets plenty of water and it's doing good. So anyway, I think I covered all. Just double checking here, people. I only had a few notes, but I just want to make sure I'm not. Yeah, so a variety of places, making sure they have protection from either too much sun or too much cold or too much rain, depending on your climate. And try starting, if some of these things people are struggling with, they think they should just be able to direct seed them and they're doing good. Try starting in pots indoors if it's not working that way. Because I tell you, a lot of the things I've tried to, my first year trying all these different herbs, I was direct seeding a whole bunch of stuff. Hardly anything grew when I did that. When it came to herbs, when it came to things like snow peas, well, yeah, of course, potatoes, Jerusalem artichokes, beans. Even beans are great. You just don't want to plant them too early around here, or they'll drown. Same thing with the snow peas. But yeah, so a lot of times just getting a good start. And I have this, I keep forgetting what it's like, a lemon bee balm. Is that what it is? Anyway, it's a variety of bee balm that I got from Azure Standard. I've got it in a pot. I haven't decided where I want to put it yet because I want to see how it grows in the pot. So I took it from the small pot it came in and stuck it in a bigger pot, and it's sitting on my deck. And I do look up, it's like, okay, does it need more sun, less sun? It seems to want a little more sun. So I have it in an area where it's going to get more sun and it's just growing like crazy. And so I know I've tried to grow bee balm before and I had little starts. I think I might have started them aside. I think I planted them out too soon. They all died. So I had that happen with the ginger. I finally got a ginger plant. I finally got ginger to grow, starting it inside, moved it outside into a protected area right up next to the house. Then we got a late freeze, killed it. I'm like, okay, I'm right now, I'm just kind of done. Just like with the turmeric. That was another one I struggled. I wonder if my lavender died because of the heat. It might be. It might be. Might be the heat. Um, maybe you're probably starting to run out of shady areas just like we run out of sunny areas for things that like sun. You might try growing it in maybe an area that gets just a little bit of sun. So it can get some sun, but not a whole lot of direct sun. This is the West Herb Garden over here is a good one for that because of the apple trees. And because it's on the west side of the house, it's a good place to grow things that kinda like that nice balance of sun, where they don't like the all day hot sun, but they still like to get some direct sunlight, especially later in the day. I've got a couple of horseradish plants over here that probably get the least amount of sun. Those well, they do get some late afternoon direct sun, but those are the biggest ones, the biggest, healthiest ones I have. And the ones that get more sun don't seem to do as good. It's funny how that is. And I'll see some things are, the other way around. But yeah, I mean, I have some that out front here that are getting plenty of sun, but it's taking a lot longer for those to get established. Well, it was only supposed to be one and it never was doing really good out front, and that gets a lot of sun until Patrick ran over it with a rototiller and made a whole bunch more radish plants.